Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's everyone doing? Joining in from Colorado, that's where I'm from. I'm trying to join from my laptop and it looks like my screen's not showing anything. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see what I'm showing? There we go. It looks like I can see it now. Okay, perfect. Well, today we're going to get started in about a minute, but we're going to be doing one of those timed challenge things. So if you are trying to prep, we're going to be doing it 3 times. You don't have to do it every single time. This is a really fun exercise in learning kind of like what to spend your time on and how sometimes it's fun. It can be a little stressful during the time challenge, but it helps you see where it might be better to loosen up instead of just overworking certain areas. So let's get started first by figuring out what palette. I want to use the same palette across all 3 so we have a pretty direct comparison. The ones that I'm thinking about using today are Winsor Newton, Viviva. I've got my set. I've got Stuart Simple, Koi, Core, and then these Soho ones because I haven't used those in a while. So let me know in the comments what paint palette you want to see me actually paint with today, and we can do that. And then we're going to vote on the actual topic that we're going to be doing. Soho. Two for Viviva, 1 for Stuart Soho, Winsor Newton. Good morning. Koi. All right, we're kind of in a dead heat between each one. Core. Core is one of my favorite brands. They are a pricier one, but I think they're a really nice brand. Got another one for Koi, one for mine. Koi. Koi. Hello. Kind of looks like Koi is so far starting to pull ahead. All right, I'm going to give you guys about 30 more seconds to vote. The question is, what palette do we want to see me paint with today? Koi, Winsor Newton, Core, Viviva, My Palette, Soho, or Stuart Simple? All right, I'm thinking it looks like Koi is the big winner today. The reason, usually I paint with multiple palettes during class, but I want to do one single palette today just so we have a better direct comparison, because there are a lot of varieties that happen between the different paints and stuff, and since we're already doing a time variable, we're going to be wanting to kind of limit the number of things. So I've got my palette here. It's pretty messy, but it is what it is. And while we're doing the rest of this, I'm gonna pre-wet my paints so they can sit and just kind of refresh and be ready to use when we are finally ready to go. All right, so for those of you who don't know, my name is Lacey. I'm the artist behind Rebel Unicorn Crafts, and today we're going to be doing a time challenge. So we're actually going to be painting whatever painting we decide to do, we're going to do it 3 times today. We're going to do one for 20 minutes, one for 10, and one for 5. The idea behind this is that we're going to learn what it's good to spend time on, and then where maybe you can be a little freer, a little bit easier, and loosen up a little bit. So the first question is, do you guys want to do, let's actually do this as a poll. I've got 4 different images here. I'm going to show you all the images, and then we're going to vote in a couple different ways. These are the 4 different images. The first thing I want to do, and I'm going to try to do a poll. Let me see if I can do this. Whoa, hold on. Let me stop this. Okay. Or actually, we'll keep it on here. So the smiley face, I want you to vote for, hold on, let me write this down. Don't vote yet. So the smiley face is going to be for a landscape. Could I pick a worse pencil right now? There we go. And then the crying face do for something else. So that would be the cactus or this. So go ahead and vote. Do you want to do landscape or do you want to do something different today? Looks like we're leaning towards something a little different today. All right, so we're gonna do something different, which is, I mean, I always love painting landscapes, but I'm kind of excited you guys chose this because we haven't done this with anything other than landscapes, so I'm curious to see how this goes between these two. So we're gonna do the poll again. And this time use the smiley face for cactus, but I gotta wait for me to put it up, and the crying face for the jellies. Okay, let me start a new one, and here we go. So far, jellies are winning it. If you want to do the cactus, make sure to vote. All right, I think we're doing jellyfish. Hold on, I think it's got to wait for it to actually finish. Oh, you got 10 seconds left to vote. I think we know, but just in case. All right, so we're going to do jellyfish, and with this, we're probably not going to do this exact thing, maybe not the exact composition, but I do want to have a reference photo of kind of what some jellyfish are going to look like. In general, the things I'm going to try to actually mimic are going to be the general shapes of their bodies and then these tentacles. And the other thing I really like about this is I do like the color scheme. I like kind of these pinks and oranges and some blues with a super dark background. So I think we're going to try to do that. This is going to be really hard to do when we do the 5-minute one, but we might have to make some adaptations and maybe we won't actually get to the background, but we'll kind of see what we can do with this. So I'm going to start by taping one down. Our first one's going to be our 20-minute one. I do have a timer I'll put on screen in just a minute. So I'm going to leave this out and I'm going to tape my first painting down. Yeah, landslide for this. I had a hunch, but the prickly pears are fun to paint too. We might do that another time. So I've got some Canson watercolor paper here, and I've got some washi tape. This is some of my new washi tape that I bought from that St. Louis art supply. And I'm just going to tape this down, get kind of prepared. I don't want this part to be part of the timed thing. We will be doing this 3 times. You don't have to do it every single time if you don't want to. But everybody get prepared, and then let me know when you are ready to go on the first one if you want to do the timed part with me so that we can start at about the same time. I need to finish taping this, but just give me a thumbs up in the comments when you're ready to go. I am not from St. Louis. I cannot remember who I saw. Somebody mentioned St. Louis Art Supply. I saw like a YouTube or a TikTok about it, and they have rare and hard to find watercolors, or not watercolors, but just art supplies in general. So I'm going to bring us a little bit closer, not too much closer because I want us to be able to still see this, but a little bit closer. So if you've got any sort of motion sickness, I'm going to move the camera in 3, 2, and 1. All right, just a little bit down. Now I'm going to start, before I start the timer on each of these, just to give them a level playing field so we're testing the painting part of this and not the sketching, is I'm going to go ahead and kind of just sketch out in general where I want these to be. And I'm going to start by doing that. So I'm going to do some loose kind of oval shapes. Now I am going to change the composition of this a little bit. I kind of like it when there is something in the 3rd quadrant. So I might do one here coming down, one up here, and then we might just have some tentacles. I don't know yet. Let's find out. Actually, let's make our main one up here. So let's start with kind of an oval type shape. This doesn't need to be a perfect shape, and we're going to not connect the back part, and I'm going to have to draw a little bit harder so you guys can actually see. So don't connect that back part, and then we're going to kind of squiggle in up here. This is going to be the main part. I'm going to kind of squiggle down here just a little bit too, and then we're just going to have some different little tendrils that I'm going to put down here. Okay? That's going to be our first one. Then let's have one that's kind of coming in. Let's do another one here that maybe is out of frame just a bit. So we're going to squiggle and then don't connect, squiggle, don't connect. And that's going to come up here and squiggle down. And then let's do one more that's over here. And it's sometimes easier if you want to actually kind of move your paper around so it's easier for you to draw on. Make that little kind of mushroom hat shape, squiggle, squiggle in, don't connect, and then let's just add some squiggles in. Now, if you are drawing this, I recommend drawing this a lot lighter so that you're not going to see, especially because these are going to be our lightest part of it. What I'm going to do next, and I'm not going to do this too much just because I want you guys to be able to see the outlines of these, but I'm going to actually, what I would normally do is after I drew, I would draw lighter than this, and then I would take this kneaded eraser and just kind of pick up some excess. So it will lighten the graphite that's on the page. And I could do that a lot more, but I'm not going to, just so that we can make sure we can continue to see this. Okay, so yeah, this is a 5x7 piece that I'm personally working on. You guys can do this in whatever size you want. You can do it in sketchbooks. The real thing we're learning here today is about time and where we want to spend our time. The other thing about this class is because of the time constraint, I typically try to limit the amount of time I spend drawing things just because I know it's loud. But we will be utilizing that. I do give everybody a heads up before I do that. I'm going to get our timer ready to go. And it looked like everybody had given me thumbs up before. I know we were sketching, so if you need another minute, let me know. This is a kneaded eraser. Let's see if we can put that there. All right, I think we're ready to go. Just so you know, my plan of attack before we do actually put this down is I think I'm going to do my background first, just to kind of lay that in, because I think even with drying, I'll probably need to do a couple layers. When we're going for a really dark color, oftentimes with watercolor, we need multiple layers. So I kind of want to put that in first, and I'm not going to completely touch anything, but my plan will be to go back in with another layer of it after I work on this. So we're going to do background, then we're going to dry it, do these, dry it, background, touch-ups is my general plan of attack. So I'm going to start this 3 and 2 and 1. Okay, let's see if I can get this where we'll actually be able to see it. All right, I'm using my time here. Oh no. All right, we're going to start over. I should get an actual stopwatch. I just have Nick's watch here. Delete. Let's figure out how to get this so that we can actually see it. Sorry about this. What can I put this around? Not that. Can we just lay it flat? Nope. It wants to do something else. There we go. I think we'll be able to see that if I put that in frame just a little bit more. There we go. All right, now I'm going to start it again. All right, so the very first thing I need to do is actually mix up some darker colors. I already have some kind of base black here. I'm going to put quite a bit of water in there, though, because we're going to need quite a bit of color here. And I am going to take some of this black just because I know we're on a timed thing. I would try to mix up a color, but I am going to modify this one. But I'm going to start off with this base black color. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this kind of, I think this is their Prussian. I really like this color. And I kind of want to bring in some blue hues into this. So I'm going to mix in some blues. That Prussian, I love their ultramarine. It's like the only ultramarine in watercolor that I actually really like. I don't know why, but it is. All right, let's test this color. I've got a little strip of watercolor over here that I can use to just kind of test the color. It's not super duper dark, so I'm going to add in just a little bit more of those colors. So I'm going to grab a little more of that black and more of that blue. And I'm actually going to throw a little purple in there too, just to give that color a little more depth. Let's see if I actually made it darker or not. We're going to have to go with whatever this color is. Yes, it's a little darker. And now I'm not going to be too careful. I'm going to start to put this in. And what we want to do when we're trying to go around an area, if we want this to be smoother, is we either want to hold it at an angle so that we can kind of control the direction the water is flowing. But because we're working around different things, we also need to do what is called keeping like a wet edge, or some people call it that, where we're going to kind of split our time between the two different sides. So I'm trying not to let either side dry out so that I don't get that harsh line. This doesn't need to be perfect though, because we are going to do a second layer on this. But see how I'm going to work back and forth between the two sides, trying to make sure that I don't let anything dry out. I'm just kind of filling this in. One other option we do have, those tentacles are a nice bright color, but they do also kind of, they're a little see-through, so we're going to see a little of that background color. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my brush off, and over on this side, especially towards the bottom, I'm going to keep washing it, kind of tapping it dry, and then I'm just going to let that kind of come in there just a little bit. You don't have to do that exactly how I'm doing it, but that's how I'm going to do it. Then I'm going to pick up more of that color, come back in over here. I'm going to kind of re-wet this since I'm going to be doing the same thing to all the tentacles in a minute. Making sure that I keep things kind of wet. All right, we've kind of reached the end of this one, so I'm going to do the same thing where I bring in my wet, clean brush and just kind of soften in here, just so we get a little bit of this kind of color bleed into where those tentacles are going to be. We can also kind of try to lift a little out if you want to like hint to some different areas. And then let's bring this into this one. And bring this down here. Oop, I got a couple spots I missed. Now technically all three of these are pretty quick paintings because we're spending the maximum is 20 minutes on something, but we'll still be able to see a little difference. So I'm going to also wet here. And then I'm going to, at the bottom, I'm just going to take a dry brush and swipe up any of that excess. Now let's do a quick time check. So we're already at 4 minutes, so we're almost a fourth of the way through this. I'm going to let this settle for just a second, and then in a moment, what I'm going to be doing is using a heat gun. A hairdryer works great for this too. You do want to make sure you don't have any standing water when you go to dry this, but I'm going to dry it. So this is going to make some noise for probably about 30 seconds, and I'm going to do this in about 5 seconds. So I'll count down for you if you need to mute this in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, it's pretty much dry. It's probably not 100% dry, and that's okay. So, but notice how much it lightened. Watercolor lightens as it dries, so that's why we typically want to plan on doing multiple layers. So next I want to come in here, and the first thing I want to do is let's actually kind of wet the little like bulbs that are on these, and I'm just going to take some clean water, and I'm going to put these kind of roughly in. I might even kind of squiggle. I want the cap part of this. Cap part of this. I'm gonna wet all three of them. I want to do a little wet on wet work here. So I'm gonna pre-wet those. And then when we actually take a look, don't mess up our timer. Of course I'm gonna mess up our timer. Come on. Okay, I think you can still maybe see that. We actually look at these. Look how much blue is right on the edge of some of these. So I want to kind of on the wet edge of where I just wet, I want to take a nice bright blue. So you could come in directly into any of these colors. This would be a great color to do this with. You could also modify it by maybe adding a little bit of green. I think I'm going to do that. And I'm just kind of tapping so I just have a little access to this. And I have quite a bit of this in my brush, so I can kind of just double check the color, take a little bit off. And then right along these edges, I'm just going to kind of drop a little bit of that color. This will lighten a bit as it dries. And then let's also kind of, I'm going to take a little water in my brush just to kind of lighten that so I have a lighter quality of that. And then let's kind of touch on a couple of these areas just to kind of build in some of that color that's going to be in there. We're just going to kind of hint to some of these colors. It's been a long time since I've painted jellyfish, so who knows? These might not actually turn out super great. Now, we still have this pretty wet. I don't want this blue to spread too much, and it spread a little bit more than I wanted it in certain areas, so I am going to take my brush that I dried off, and I'm just going to suck up a little bit of this pigment. Just a little bit. Because the next thing I want to do is bring in some of these. There's peach, there's purple, there's orange, there's pinky type colors in here. And I don't want those to mix too much together. I do want them to kind of mix together. But let's go in with, I probably should have started by washing some of this off. Oh well. Let's modify this peach color by bringing in some of this. This is kind of like their magenta-esque color. Or is this one their magenta? Yeah, one of these. Let's get kind of a reddish pinky color going here. I'm going to bring a little of that purple in just to kind of bring that as a more interesting color. And let's place that. This should still be a little bit wet, so I'm just going to kind of place this along certain areas, along the top and the bottom. Top and the bottom. And then I'm also going to kind of just put a couple little marks here. All right, this is not quite how I thought it was going to go, but that is okay. Now I want to bring more of the peachy colors into this. This was more red than I had anticipated. This is the one downfall I find with this palette is they don't have a great pink in it. I personally like when they have more of a true magenta type color, but that's just a personal preference. So I'm going to try to get some orange and a little bit of this to make more of kind of a peachy type color. Let's just check on that. There we go. And let's just place some of this color in here. Just kind of tapping it into those areas that are still a little bit wet. And then we're going to take this same brush with that peachy color, and I just kind of want you to, I don't have any left in there, just kind of tap down. This might be one of those really good lessons where you guys can see that not everything turns out kind of how I anticipate it to. It's been a while since I've painted these, and I feel like today I'm not winning quite as much as I want. That is okay. All right, so let's actually kind of lean in instead of just trying to go with the same color palette, because this is kind of boring me a little bit with the colors. And let's see how pink of a color I can get. Let's try to make this a little more oh, this one is more of the pink color. Okay. So I'm going to place this along the edge. If you think you've got too much, you can always take a little tester strip. And I'm going to place this along the edge. And I got to just kind of see where it's still wet. And let's also bring that towards the top. All right, I already like that a little bit more. These are still not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but that's okay. All right, we are at, let's bring that down a little bit more. I feel like that could actually use a little bit more there. And in general, I'm kind of trying to keep this middle part. I'm going to just take a wet brush and kind of lift out the middle because it's going to help it look a little more bulbous. And then let's take that same color. This is their magenta in here. If you've got a pink, this would be way better. And then I'm just going to kind of do the same thing I did before. This, I'm literally, for this movement, I'm just going to take the tip of my brush and just kind of, I'm tapping, dragging, and moving my hand so that it does not look super, like we don't want necessarily super straight lines, because if you look at these, they really kind of flow in different directions. Well, let's really bring this one out this way. We do still just kind of want these to kind of look kind of flowy. Need to grab some more of this. I'm sorry, I'm not able to really look at the comments too much. We usually have some super duper helpful people in the comments here though, so if you've got questions, there's usually somebody who can help. I'm going to take some of this purple and then I'm going to tap my brush off. I kind of just want to build in a little bit of kind of some shadowing back here and maybe kind of in here. Just feeling like these are kind of lacking some depth. Okay. We're just going to kind of try to bring in some of those darker colors just to kind of give them a little more shape. I've got some purples that I'm doing this with, just kind of trying to add in some shadowing and maybe even a little shadowing in those tentacles. We have 5 minutes left. Okay, so now I need to really start to be kind of picky on what I'm going to spend my time on. I think that with a darker background, this is going to pop even more. So again, I'm going to be using the hairdryer on this for about 30 seconds, and I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to really try to bump up the color of the background to see how much that helps this, okay? So in 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm hoping I'm going to be able to have time to do some more because I'm liking some of what's happening in parts of this, but it's just lacking some depth. So we need to try to get some more color going in here. I'm going to take more of this blue and more of this purple and mix this into that black color. And let's just try to do this as fast as I can. I'm not going to be super careful, but I'm just trying to bump up this pigment. So I'm going to try to move even faster than I did the time before. Because we got 5 minutes left, not even, oh my goodness. Whose idea was this? Oh, that's right, it was my idea. Oh no, I went on it. Okay, let's say you get some on there. I'm just going to take my brush, wash it really quick, and try to suck that up. Not a big deal. And on this one, I'm not going to be super careful about trying to get kind of an even wash because my goal is more just to cover this area and make this darker, and actually potentially having some of the variation of how the watercolor is going to kind of move might actually help us add some interest here. So the name of the game is covering, not so much. I might even dip more into blue in certain areas. Not so much perfection. Just try to get this covered. We're not being too careful here, obviously. I do feel like this has helped this a lot. In general, I already kind of know that I feel like this painting would be helped with another 5 or 10 minutes. But that's not what we're trying to do today. So I'm going to come in just with a little water and maybe just soften a couple of these harsh edges just a little bit. But I think that did help. This could probably use with a 3rd layer on the background. All right, let's dry it. It's going to get light again, so it would probably be better with a 3rd layer, but I want to try to get in a couple other details. So if you are sensitive to noise, you're going to want to turn down the volume in 3, 2, and 1. All right, we got 2 minutes left. Let's add in some details. I'm thinking some of those blues are going to be ideal for kind of helping this stand out, which is like this ultramarine Prussian, and then let's get a little bit of this kind of viridian type color in there. And let's try to kind of emphasize some of these. This is going to be dry. And we're kind of going a little off book here, but we just need to have a little extra depth to this. And I feel like this is just lacking a little bit of kind of this extra depth. So I'm just going to kind of try to come in here with some of the darker colors and add in some details. I'm going to try to avoid the areas that I really like so I don't cover them up. And let's just kind of add in some of these. And down. And then I'm going to wash my brush. And let's just kind of see if we can get a little bit of some fun bleed action going on any of this. Maybe not because my paper was warm when I added this. And so it's pretty much dry. Okay, let's try to add in, I got 30 seconds, so I'm going to add a little water to the top. Let's see if we can get some of that blue-green color to just kind of bleed down just a little bit. Maybe let's just tap a little bit on a couple of these areas just to create a little texture. Okay, this is one of my least favorite ones I've done, and we are out of time, so I gotta stop. Okay, so here's the thing. This one, I feel like this one is a good one where I would maybe want to actually come back in and try to salvage this. We learned quite a few lessons about where we were spending time though. So I want to kind of look at this and see parts that I really like and parts that I don't like so much. So the first thing is I think this would be even more stunning if the background were even darker. With one more layer of that background, I think maybe with like a really dark blue wash, this would just really make everything pop out so much more than it is now. So one thing we might want to think about doing is, even though I really love the colors on this, we're going to have limited time. We've got half the amount of time for our next one, and we've already found out that we probably need at least 3 layers in order to get a really dark background. So maybe we don't try to have a super dark background. Maybe we do something with splatters. Maybe we just leave it white and really try to concentrate on these jellyfish. The other things I like is I do like when this bled together a little bit more. The other thing we can do to simplify things is when we are looking at different pictures and things, depending on your skill level, the amount of time you want to spend on something, because sometimes even if you're really skilled and you have the capabilities, it's just kind of exhausting to do super complicated things. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we can modify some of these things to make them a little more simple. I really like this one where we can really see in here, but when you don't get the right balance, it ends up looking more like a mushroom. So we could try, instead of making these where they're more open, is we can actually kind of change them so that we're not really seeing inside of them. This is not exactly it, but we're not trying to kind of show the interior part of this and trying to kind of capture the light that comes kind of inside of there. So we've got some options on that. Even when I'm just looking at different things, like I know this is not the most spectacular picture of these cactuses, but when I was looking for different ones, there's a lot of them that overlap so much that for you to try to figure out where they're all overlapping, it's going to make things way more difficult. And if you're trying to just kind of do a fun, simple painting, you want to look for images that are going to have more simple faces of things until you're like really ready to like sit down and commit to a composition. All right, so what do you guys think? What should we do for the background? Should we try to keep it dark, or should we go with splatters, or should we not do anything? Should we have a blue background? let me know what you kind of think as far as the other ones. I've already, I'm kind of testing this tape anyways, so let's risk this and without heating it up. It's been kind of heated up a few times. Let's see if it takes any of the paper off, because this is, I gotta see. All right, so far so good, this washi tape. Splattery. Okay, we're gonna do some splatters. Okay, so here is this. I don't hate this, it's just, it's not my favorite. We're going to do a couple other things to prepare before we do this 10-minute one, because we're going to start to feel the pressure of the time in a minute. First thing I'm going to do is tape this down. This is that washi tape. It's from MT. And I do have to say that this one seems higher quality than a lot of the other washi tapes that I've been using. So far, my impressions of this one are good. I gotta do full-scale testing on that other masking tape, though. Ooh, okay, wait. There is a suggestion, so we got quite a few people saying splattery, but somebody says a light blue with blooms in it. That sounds kind of tempting. I'm not gonna lie. I want to do that for, we're doing that one for the 10-minute. We're going to do splatters for the 5. So this is cardboard, and the reason why we're using cardboard is I like it because I can move it around. I can kind of tilt it if I need to. I can move it around, and it's not directly taped to this, and then it just kind of keeps it in place, and it kind of helps spread out the pressure. Okay. Not super duper crazy about the composition I had, but I'm going to try to keep it basically the same. And rather than really trying to outline a lot of these areas, I think what I'm going to do instead is just make kind of little mushroom caps and then kind of indicate the direction. So we're actually going to try to fill in less information here than we did the first time, because I think that kind of made me a little more beholden to what was happening. And let's just kind of indicate the direction of what things are happening here. And maybe this one is going a little more vertical. Or actually, we had this one out of frame, which I kind of like it half out of frame. And maybe these are just to get a little more direction. Okay, so I'm going to have a much simpler sketch on this. The other thing I am going to do really quick is I'm just going to use my paper towel to wipe out some of these colors, because I should have cleaned this out before class, but I felt like I was kind of limited by space with my mixing. All right, we're getting close, so let me know in the comments, give me a thumbs up when you are gonna be ready to go. This one we're gonna start with a light wash across everything. Actually, I'm gonna go dump my water out because it's basically black at this point from trying to get that dark. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds before we get started in this next one. All right, so the game of attack for here is I'm going to, over everything, I'm going to place a light wash of blue, even including on top of these figures, and then I'm going to be dropping water in to get some blooms happening. So let's stop this, and then let's reset this. We got 10 minutes on this one. Let's see if I can get this maybe set before we start going. Can we see that? I'm using Canson watercolor paper today. And we're using Koi watercolors today. All right, who's ready? We got thumbs up in the comments. Perfect, perfect. And we're going to be going in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we got this. I'm gonna put some water in this. We're gonna mix up a nice light blue color. I'm gonna take some of this and some of this. These are kind of like their cerulean type blues. And I'm just going to also put a little bit of this ultramarine, because ultramarine usually is kind of granulating, which means you can kind of usually get some nice bloom colors. I'm going to put a little bit more water in this. And then we're just going to do a really quick wash. Since we're planning on putting blooms in this, we don't need to be super duper careful. In general, I'm going to kind of be abiding by the flat wash technique here just a little bit, but not super. Also, you can see the areas where I touched the paper. Let's pull this down. We're going for a really light wash. Whew, 10 minutes, my goodness. We can do this, right guys? Okay. All the way down to the bottom. We don't need this to be perfect, because remember we said we were going to do a light wash with some blooms. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, wash it off, and then I'm going to get some water in here. And I'm just going to start to kind of drop this in along some of these areas. We're trying to just get some texture in here. See how that's kind of pushing some of that pigment? I used a really light color, but it pushes some of that pigment away, which is going to help us kind of keep the light, but it's also going to just add some interesting textures. And we're going to kind of keep it a little bit like this. It was a great idea. All right. We're on a time constraint, so I'm going to, I don't want to dry this yet, but I'm going to. I usually like to let blooms sit a little bit more, but we gotta go, so this is going to be turning on in 3, 2, and 1. All right, that's kind of dry. It's pretty much dry. Now, one thing I really like this. I did really like the contrast in the background, but yeah, we're not gonna be able to get that in the time constraint. So what we're gonna be doing on this one is we're gonna be taking more solid colors. I'm gonna take some of this. I think this was that blue that we really liked in the other one. And I'm going to be taking a little bit of water in here, grabbing some of that. And then I'm also going to be dipping into this pink and this one. So let's go ahead and re-wet, because they've soaked up all my color. And I'm just going to kind of place this a little bit along the rim in a couple areas. I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to take some of that pink, put that in an area. Some purple, put that in an area. Got too much on my brush. And then we're going to take our brush, wash it, get a little bit of water in it, and then let's just pull that down. This is going to create some kind of interesting effects, and let's bow that out just a little bit and bring it kind of squiggled down. So I'm already liking a little bit of what's happening here, so let's concentrate some more of those colors along the edge, just like this. And grabbing some of that blue, bringing it in. Let's also grab some of that Prussian right at the bottom. Oh, that one's pretty much dry. I should have re-wet that one too. Getting some of that pink. There we go. We're getting some of those colors that I'm kind of wanting. Let's bring that over here, and I'm going to kind of concentrate it because there's usually kind of this little bell shape. So I'm going to bring a little bit of that here. And then we want to take some of those colors that we had in lighter washes. So I'm going to dip my brush in the color, then I'm going to dip it into water, and we're going to just kind of pull these down. Different lengths, different colors. You can let some of these bleed together. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of that ultramarine. Let's try to put some of this kind of up here as well. Just really trying to kind of outline and create a little more depth on some of these. We're already halfway through, so we do need to be a little more cognizant. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush and let's put some of those blooms kind of at the top and then like right along here, just to create a little separation, a little interest. And let's make one of these with that kind of ultramarine type color. All right, I kind of already like this one a little better. I'm going to take a little bit of that blue and some of that green type color. Kind of a teal color that I'm making. And let's put a little bit of that in there too. Okay, let's try to do kind of the same thing over here with some of these other ones. Got a little here. Maybe this one we will kind of hint to the little bell on it. We got about 3 minutes. All right, I'm cutting it close. We're going to bring some of these colors in here. I need this one to settle a little bit more. There we go. Taking that, well, this is that ultramarine in the koi set. We think we need a little more of that pink in this one. We can also come in, the other thing we forgot to do on the other one is we can take some of these colors and then do those really little tentacles. Oh, I don't like that color on that one. Whoops. That's okay. Oh, I feel like that's kind of bringing it together a little bit more. We got one more of those to do. I am going to run out of time. That's okay. We're going for it. Blue and pink. Ooh, that was a lot in my brush. Let's just soften this. Maybe this one's a little bit more misshapen because it's moving and grooving. Got that purple on here. Let's get some of that pink. So we have learned one little thing today. Landscapes are a little easier to kind of pick and choose the areas that you're going to focus on than something like a jellyfish, which is a valuable lesson to know. I could have been a little smarter about how I edited down this composition. But here we are. Bring in some of these blues. Let's just kind of hint to that being there. Let's touch this Prussian right along here. Nope, that one's too dry, so we're just going to have to improvise. Let's bring a little shadow there. And then I'm going to come back in. We have 15 seconds. I'm going to bring in a couple of these little lines where I think maybe there's not too much going on. 3. Oh no, that one's so regular. Ooh. All right, I gotta stop. 10 minutes. Okay, so let's take a quick little gander between these two. So this was our 10-minute one, this was our 20-minute one. And this seems to kind of happen where, yeah, I usually like the 10-minute one. Something about having to be a little bit freer and looser. And I kind of seem to overthink and think I've got more time to mess with certain areas. There are still things I like about this one more, but in general, I like this one a little bit more. It feels a little more free. It feels a little bit better. And I feel like I spent too much time on the background here. All right, so lessons we've learned for 5 minutes. Background, we're gonna, the background will be splatters if we have time. So we're not gonna even start with trying to do any sort of a background. And I think the other thing that if we want to try to save time and get some of these little wispies is we might actually start with the tentacles so they'll have more time to kind of settle and dry. And then we can do this second so that third we can kind of pull those down. All right, so this one, we're only going to mess with the background if we have like 30 seconds left at the end, because this one's going to be our 5-minute one. By the way, these are my favorite ones to get from you guys, to see all three next to each other, because I just love seeing how different 3 paintings that are essentially the same can look, just depending on the constraints. So we're going to go ahead and get this one all taped down and get set up. The other thing that I think we learned about the other two is that sometimes when you sketch out a little bit too much information or details, you're really constrained. So like, yeah, if you're trying to do an exact replica or portrait or something like that, yeah, you're going to need a really good sketch. But if you're just trying to kind of like, you're like, I just want to paint some jellyfish, you know? Like, you don't really care if they're those jellyfish, then maybe I feel like doing just the little like half moon and a couple squiggles to show me the direction. It gave me more freedom and it allowed me to kind of work with what the watercolor was giving me and just kind of the direction the painting was going. I could kind of modify things. Okay, so I'm going to do the sketch in a similar way to the last time where I did just like a little half moon shape and then squiggles just to kind of show, okay, this is the direction I want those tentacles to go. And we're going to try to basically keep this one the same. And then this one, the little half moon is over here, and we're going to have the tentacles going in that direction. Okie dokie. Let me get the timer set up. And let me know in the comments, give me a thumbs up when you're ready for this 5-minute dash to start. This is going to be the 5-minute one. Yeah, paper is a really complicated question for me to answer because it really does just depend on budget. I mean, like if you've got the budget to just paint on arches or cotton paper, then absolutely go for it. But if you don't have the budget, or you also feel guilty using such a nice paper to kind of practice and feel things out, yes, it's technically easier to use those because they do, you know, they're more formulated for it, but they are so expensive. You can get a pack of this Canson XL for like $7-8, and I cut it up into different pieces, and so you can use it just a ton. And it is, I think it's better for lifting than a lot of other papers. It's more prone to blooms and it doesn't layer quite as well, but for practice and for when you're getting started, it's a great paper. All right, I think we only got one thumbs up. Is anybody else ready to go with the 5-minute one? This one I'm going to try, I'm probably not going to have any time to really mix colors, so I'm going to be dropping straight into these. So I had some trouble with this last time, so let's really just wet those. Okay, we are ready. This is going to be the Mad Dash one. I hope that we're going to have time to splatter. So let's get ready to go in 3, 2, and 1. Oh, no wait, 3, 2, and 1. I don't know if you, oh no. Okay, I get an extra 5 seconds. All right, so we're gonna take some of these purples, whatever colors we want. Oh, we said we were gonna do these first, actually. Na 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 na. Let's add in a couple of these. The little squiggles. It's okay that they are changing colors a little bit. All right, added in a couple of those. Before this sits too long, I do need to kind of grab that color. Maybe I'm gonna set this down. I like to hold my paper, but that is part of the reason why I'm starting to have to wear that brace sometimes, is that stabilizing hand. Okay, I'm gonna bring in some blues. And we're going to put that in some of these. And let's drop some of that color in here because I already have this one kind of set up. Let's do some of that pink. And on this one, I'm probably not going to talk quite as much because, yeah, I'm just kind of concentrated. So at this point, you guys kind of know the drill. We're just kind of adding in some of these colors, trying to get some interest going. We have about 3 minutes left on the clock, so far I'm actually doing, I feel like, pretty good with the time. I mean, could I use more time? Absolutely, but so far, so good. Squiggle in and drop in that color in. Yeah, my brain is blank because it is just trying to paint. Need some more of that pink over here. I'm just going to kind of add in some of those. You know what? I'm going to dip into a really bright green. I don't know why, but that just feels like it could kind of bring in a couple colors here and there. Maybe more of that Viridian type green would actually be better. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. Trying to bring this color in. I think I need more purples and blues on that one. I like this one. This one's shape is not great. Let's kind of bring out those sides. It's a little better. Let's bring in some of that purple. There we go. Maybe bring that down just a little bit. Also, some of these colors I don't think are working together, so I'm going to kind of lift out a little bit there. Let's bring some more purple down over here. Bring this here. More of that pink. Over here, maybe a really bright one. Oh no, I got 30 seconds. This one, wait, I got an extra 5 seconds because I remember I gave that to myself just because. All right, I'm gonna bring in some of those really light cut or really loose tentacles. Woo, just a couple of them. I like this one. I mainly concentrated on that one. These other ones, they're not great. And then let's splatter. I'm just gonna take some of this blue. Some of this green. And one of the pink and purple. All right, I went over, but there we go. I did it in 5 minutes. It's not great. This one actually, I like this one. These two, not so much. Oh, and I went a little crazy with the splatter and I got splatter on other things. So we'll have to use our imaginations a little bit. But let's review, let's do a quick recap of what we did today. Kind of what are some takeaway lessons from this. There are a couple things that I want to think about here. One, okay, if you're splattering, you want to maybe put other things away or put up a protective barrier because these all have splatter on them now. So there is a lesson that we've learned. It's technically one I knew, but you know, in the panic. The other thing is that, yeah, if you're going to want to do a dark background, you're going to need a lot of time, a lot of patience, and a lot of layers, and it has to be dry. You can't layer dark on a wet background. It won't actually get dark. It'll just kind of lift and move it around. This one, there is something about, I'm not saying everything you paint needs to be fast, but I think watercolor is one of the really unique mediums as far as the medium itself can be almost as beautiful as the painting and the composition. And so, yeah, like you have to work around whatever you have, but watercolor sometimes when it has a mind of its own, it can actually end up being better than what you kind of anticipated. Other things that I like about different ones, I do like the textured background on this one. I think that was a really good idea. I might have tried to go for a slightly different color palette. That's the other thing, is we chose to work with koi, and I do like koi paints, but I kind of had stuck in my mind this blue and peachy and pink kind of color palette, and I really like their ultramarine and some of the other colors, but I was kind of in my mind thinking more like a phthalo blue. I'm always partial to kind of a phthalo type blue, a quinacridone type magenta, and both of those are not really colors that are found in my version of this. They do have bigger sets of this, and you can always add colors to this set. This isn't to say that you can't paint that color palette using this plus maybe a little bit more. I do wish I'd kind of settled on a slightly different color palette because I'm not super crazy about some of the colors. But yeah, I don't know. What did you guys learn from this one? And which one did you like of yours? Did you like your 20, your 10, or your 5? I like the colors on my 20 better. I like the general color scheme better. But I actually, and I also like these dark details I added in on these. That is another thing I like about my longer one. But as far as the actual jellyfish, I like my 10 and my 5 better. You learned that you panicked. 5 and 10 are the best. 10, 10. All right. Well, I think that's it for me. Yeah, if you guys want to send me pictures through Instagram, I love seeing them. And I think I do think it's important to show that like not everything's going to turn out completely perfect. You know, Andrea and I talked about this before, but like oftentimes we will do something a couple times until we like really feel like we truly understand it. And I've painted jellyfish before. It's been a while, and I've definitely lost some of the skills, but I think it's kind of important for you guys to see that, you know, not everything that I do is going to be a total win, and I still learn lessons, and I think that's really important to actually see that, you know, it's fun. It's this little challenge is just kind of a fun activity to do. All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys next time.